Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are going to talk about the COVID pandemic in light of Erikson's psychosocial stages of development. And before we do, it's important to recognize that COVID is an ACE. So it wasn't necessarily the virus itself, although for some it really was, but it was mostly the lockdowns, the masking, and the other regulations that went along with it that created stress and contributed to COVID being an ACE. An ACE is an adverse childhood experience. And as many of you know, stressors can increase the hyperactivity at the HPA axis, which can lead to inflammation, can lead to changes in hormones, changes in neurotransmitters, and changes even to the structures of the brain itself. This can all lead to physical and psychological changes and symptoms, even for the rest of a person's life. So when we look at Erikson's stages, we recognize that COVID had an impact on every single one of these stages. And as many of you guys know, that struggles in one stage can lead to struggles in the next stage. So if a task is not completed in one stage, then it can interfere with the ability to navigate through all the subsequent stages. So one stage that I want to look at in particular is the industry versus inferiority stage. And this spans the ages of 6 to 11, which is generally considered elementary school. Some of the important tasks during this stage include industry, which is basically the ability to master certain skills and activities. Also, successes and accomplishments. Some other tasks include separation from caregivers and forming relationships with peers. And COVID affected the stage in a number of ways. First of all, it interfered with routine. And as we know, routine is super important for children at this age. They need that sense of consistency and comfort and stability that routine often brings them. COVID also interfered with learning, especially children that had learning challenges. It interfered with peer relationships. Face-to-face relationships are critical, but it also interfered with industry or mastery of certain tasks from academics or even sports and other athletics. Because as we know, many of these tasks, many of these opportunities were canceled. They didn't have the opportunity to engage in certain sports activities or other things that could have contributed to that sense of mastery and industry. And so, but what exactly contributed to the symptoms that we saw in children? It was the school closures, the social distancing dots, the social media messages, even the parents, their own anxiety, and the masking. All of this led to stress and fear. And fear can lead to a number of symptoms, especially in this age group, which include enuresis, separation anxiety disorder, nightmares, behavioral issues, which is often diagnosed as oppositional defiant disorder, and academic struggles. So our role as counselor is to really get to the roots of the presenting problem, because it's important to recognize that presenting problem or presenting symptom is not the root. So our role is to dig deep. And with this age group, what I do is I engage in play therapy, music therapy, or even art therapy. Because with this age group, they are much more comfortable in play versus traditional talk-to-talk therapy. And in play, they will reveal things and demonstrate behaviors that will give us clues to the root of the issue. For instance, I had a 6-year-old little girl who was referred to me by a pediatrician because of enuresis, and he had ruled out all physical issues. So generally, when a child comes to me with enuresis and there's no medical etiology, what we see often is trauma, stressors, or major changes in the child's life. So with this little girl, I had some suspicions, but as I observed her, I recognized that she had some fear. She was demonstrating some fear. But I asked her to draw these fears, and she drew a picture of two monsters. These monsters' names were COVID-1 and COVID-2. And she described these monsters as sitting outside her bedroom door, which prevented her from getting up to use the restroom at night. So instead, she wet the bed. So it's interesting to see how abstract concepts such as COVID for children become manifest in different images, such as that of monsters. We also have to recognize too the role that parents and that the environment play in contributing to these symptoms. For instance, this mother was terrified of COVID. She hardly let the girl leave the house. The mom watched the news 24/7. So it's these constant fear messages that were feeding the child's behaviors. So to help the child, I really had to work with the parents on helping change some of their behaviors and utilizing certain tools and strategies to help the child. So when we work with children, it's important to take into account the context, because the context is often what contributes to the symptoms. And this will help us, recognizing this will help us avoid misdiagnosis. So, in summary, when you work with children, it's helpful to do so in light of Erikson's psychosocial theory of development, because being able to recognize the tasks and the impact that the environment has on these tasks is crucial to providing the child and the parents with the tools necessary to navigate through the stage. Thank you for listening. Have a great week, and God bless you.